Hello, hope you're okay. Today I thought I would talk a little bit about darts and dart manipulation. I know there's a lot of videos out there showing a lot of advanced dart manipulation, but I thought it was important to, um, I think it is important to understand how the simple dart actually works and what you can do with it. I've been teaching pattern making for many years and mostly done on 2D. Uh, with that I mean flat on the surface, but you can just as well do it while um, creating some design on the dress stand. So I'm just standing here again with a simple square fabric. I marked center front over here or the front edge depending what you would like to do. And we always start with a crease in the front so the fabric doesn't stretch too much. And if you would like to do something extra in the front, it's always nice to have some extra fabric there. And as I told before, uh, I usually put it up here so the edge of the fabric fits with the neck on the dress stand. But if you would like to do something going around the neck to the center back, you probably need more. So since we don't know really what we're doing, what design we're doing, so we'll put it a little bit further up. And if we want to have some buttons in this jacket or what it would be, we put it at center front, but we transport it a little bit further over. So you get about 1.5 centimeters extra up there. And then you pin it up here in the neckline and at the hip line. And what you usually do, and what we have done before, is to keep it snug over the bust, and then you just take the fabric around, and then you pin up at the either under the arm down here or at the shoulder, depending on what you're going to do. And then you can just keep it snug over the hip down here too. And the standard thing that everybody does when they make a basic pattern, or most people does, of course, is that they remove some fabric under the bust point and in a straight line downwards, and you just take a little nip here at the waistline and you remove it. What's important to understand here is that when you remove something here, the wider dart you make here, the more the fabric will be pulled up. So that's why more small darts works better than one big dart. And also thinking when you think about the shape the body has, you don't have pinned pointy bust points or pointy hips. So you want to take the fabric and move it upwards, and then you will get more darts instead of one big one. If you take one big one, you can see the fabric will pull, you get a tension. So a small dart here, and of course if it's a fabric that isn't that stretchy, you have to cut into it. And then you usually just move it up here and take, for example, a dart up here. Or you cut, now I won't cut this yet, but you cut a square up here and you transport the fabric over to the side, and then I just move this pin, and then I get a dart out into the armscye. And then you get this classic princess line when you have it. Oh, sorry, this is the princess line up on the shoulder. Then you got a seam all the way around, or you can have this other line when it comes over the bust dot and out to the side. And this is very standard procedure, and that's why your basic pattern when you draw it flat on a board looks like that. And actually most people say that's what it always looked like, but that's not, of course that's not true. It's from the 50s or 60s when probably the 60s I would say, when the dresses looked that way. So it was an easy way to make the dress you would like. In the early, about 1902 or something like that, then there was no breast dart up here, bust dart. The fabric was all transformed here and gathered down here, and then you had a separate skirt. So doing this as a standard can be a problem when we don't want dresses like that today. So that's why it's important to learn different things, I think. So if you don't want to do this, you can do different things. And actually what it's all about is to transport this extra fabric to different places and balancing it so it don't get too pointy. If we just pull it away and make darts, it gets very pointy. I think it's important to get some looseness into it. Well, there was a lot about different things, but if you, for example, transform it up to the neckline, then you will understand why high neck incorporated in the front piece always needs some extra fabric. And you see that when you transport it up here, if you just put it ever so nicely up to the neckline and have a close, a narrow area here, you can see that it actually can move up here. And what you see is also that it varies in width. Here it's nothing up down here, and then it gets wider up here, and of course you cut it, and then it goes out up here again. So then you get the shape. So it goes inwards and outwards. So that can you use your dart too. And of course you have to go out to the shoulder neck intersection and make a cut down here to make the tension go away. And from this side it will look something like this, and of course you make it lower, and the cut here will make that the fabric can go up the shoulder up to the neckline. And if you don't want to do that, of course you can transport it another way around. Actually, if you think about it, here it always seems a little bit tight, and that's because as at the front dart is showing, at the side, if you remove a lot of fabric here, it also gets a little bit tight. So what you can do is that you actually can transport all this all the way down. So you just remove some fabric here. You transport this all the way down, and then you get extra fabric down here, so the tension isn't all that bad, if you could say that. And then you can just remove it downwards. And for example, make a nice little dart over here instead. And then you get the shape over the hip and up to the bust point. And you can see here again that it's important that you don't do it too tight, which I did here. That you always have a little bit extra room to shape it out. And then of course you cut it over here. And then you get a nice dot out here, and you cut a little bit in here, so you get a nice shape and no dots up here. So that's another alternative. If you will think a little bit like they did in the 50s, then they had very narrow waists and they cut it over here, or some did of course, and then you actually can get a lot of extra fabric up here, and then you can make a lapel coming out from the bodice itself. So we say we're done with this one, and we just transport the fabric upwards instead, and then I just pin it up here, and then I want all this fabric up here, and then of course I have to cut into the waistline. And then you can move all this fabric upwards and get a lot of extra fabric up here. And of course here you have to have a waist seam. You don't have to have a waist seam in the front. You can actually be interesting so that you do something set in here, because you can see this moves absolutely wonderful down here. So you actually put a jacket and a pocket down here, and then you have a seam, and continue down. You can do a lot of things. It's not ideas that's lacking. And then you continue all this up here. And then you can see you have a lot of extra fabric to work with, and it fits ever so nicely over here. It's a watch point though that is not supposed to be too tight under the arm if you want to have a set-in sleeve. But if you just want it really tight and sleeveless, it would be okay. So always balance this a little bit. Maybe you want some extra fabric just down here under the sleeve, under the arm side. And then I'm gonna do this little elaborate, do a little bit more of it because I think it's interesting and just showing. So just bear with me and follow, and we can see what it ends up like. Here, over here, we talked of before that when you just tilt this up here, we got a problem because all this fabric comes extra. Because you have it tight here, and of course, if you tilt it over here, you got a problem. So what I thought we do is that we actually pinpoint it here and say we have a button here, and then I want this still to be flat up, and then I have to actually remove fabric up here, and I will remove enough so it goes up to the neck shoulder intersection. It's an important point where we always go for theirs and cut it down there. So I just remove fabric up here. I can see I probably need it up to here, but I can always see how much I want this to differ. If I take it all the way down here, it gets all flat. If I just take a part of it away, I get this not bulky but full bust. You can see it from the side. It's rounder. But I think I will make this completely flat. But of course, when I remove here, I get less fabric for the color. So do something in between. And then I just pin it all the way up here in the intersection to keep it tight. And then I got all this extra fabric up here to actually make a lapel. And if we remove a little bit of fabric underneath, then I can continue this up to the neckline and then turn it around, or I can make a label. I hope you can see what I'm making here. What's important is to cut down, so when you have almost a notion about what you want to do, you put transport the fabric up to the intersection over here, and then you just cut inwards in the fabric like that, and then I have to remove the sound on my telephone, and then you freely can design something up here. Just cut in the other layer too. And then you can just turn it around to make an ever so nice label up here. Either if you want it turned down like this, or if you would like to have a stand-up collar. It's a little bit tight for a stand-up collar. I have to cut more, so I think I go for the turn around nice little collar. And then I just pin it in place in the center back, and now you can see it's important why we put it quite high in the start. And then you can see here that this collar actually comes out of the bust area. It's one piece all the way around here. And if we want to make it a little bit more interesting, we can even more interesting. You can see this is a little bit the new look shape of it. We can cut in to the armscye or armhole over here. And then we got a little bit more fabric, so we actually could make another drape up here. Over here, and then of course you can continue to do that. I think we'll remove this again and just keep it straight over here. And in the back it looks like this, and of course we just mark underneath here from the intersection and mark the neckline exactly where we want to be. Make a few cuts to release it. And then we can turn this one down again to cover the seam and mark center back, and of course mark the shoulder line. If you feel that you have too little fabric over here, you just put in an extra piece, for example something you have laying around, and then you just put it in underneath and pin it on, be sure to have it in the same grain if you want to use the stretchy fabric or something. And then you have just what extra you would like to use for your shoulder, and you can cut it in place and make your armhole in the shape you want it to be. So this was just some inspiration to what you actually can do with the dots. So the dots are important for transforming different shapes. And what I also like with this is that you are not a slave under lines as when you do the pattern making with measuring. Of course, you have to have a dress dummy, something similar to the body shape you want to do it, but you can easily put extra fabric into the side seam afterwards or something like that. And what I also like with this is that it's very inspirational for seeing that you can actually do large, large designs with only one piece of fabric. So that was all for me today. Next time I will try to do a back for the earlier design we draped, and the standout color in one piece. I took it down and it ended like this. Is quite interesting. And of course it's interesting that center backs is an angle, so actually you can have it in one long piece, so you can have it all around the neck. So I will do the back for this next time. Thank you for watching. It's been a pleasure having you, and see you next time. Bye.